So, hey, the light lit up and it said we went live. So, if we're live and it's Tuesday night, it must be time for another 2A Tuesday chat. So, I got some people in here in our panel and some people over in the chat side who apparently must think so too because y'all came in and joined us. So, welcome everybody. It is 2A Tuesday. It's a little after 9, but I'm only 5 minutes late. So, considering I had a few technical difficulties with my email, mostly thought I sent a link to everybody when I didn't. So the technical difficulties with my email and mostly just the guy supposed to be clicking the send button. So, all right, we're gonna let everybody say hello real quick as everybody as the chat kind of fills in here. So we'll just start over there on the west coast of the country and say hi to Calaveras.
I apologize for California being a cancer to the rest of the country. I am doing my best to stop it. I appreciate the invite, and I'm looking forward to a good conversation.
And we appreciate all the work you're doing from behind enemy lines. Somebody's got to fight the good fight. That somebody is you. So we can tell people all we want to, just move out of there. But then how does anything ever get resolved? And how do we ever actually get some of our side, our story kind of spread across the rest of the country, right? So good job, Calaveras, with everything you're doing over there. All right, coming to us from the state of Kansas, just to my south here, my neighbor Gizzard Gary, everybody's favorite tactical rooster. What's up, sir?
Hey, not a whole lot. Thank you for the invite, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being here.
You bet.
Moving right along, we've got the kingpin himself, David Bowling's in the house. What's up, David?
Not too much, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. Obnoxious One is kind of throwing stuff around, it sounds like. And I think he said he was okay. Are the magazines okay that you dropped?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm fine. Thanks for having me on, even though you had me on here with a noted sexist, Calaveras.
Okay, okay, let's square this away.
What's wrong with being sexy? There's nothing wrong with being sexy. So
Sexist.
what's not his fault? Oh,
Sexist.
sorry. Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Obnoxious may be physically okay, but we all know he's a few bricks short of a load, so that's a different topic.
Hey, the loads happen Sunday nights at 10:30. So let's not bring that in.
That sounded loaded right there. We don't know what's going on, but if you haven't caught Orange You Glad It's Not the Closer, then you're probably missing out on some stuff. So
You're missing out on something. It's not good, but you're missing out.
You're missing out on it. We'll go check that out. And it's when is it? Thursdays, Saturdays?
It's either Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern or 11 p.m. Saturday, depending on Sarge's schedule, because he has it the other night. So there's always something good at Thursday night at 9 o'clock or Saturday night at 11 Eastern. And there's always something bad at 10:30-ish on Sunday.
Okay, good. We'll have to keep that in mind too. All right. We have This Week Unloaded. Rich White's in the house. What's up?
Hey, how's it going, guys? And right about the time when that really bad thing happens at 10:30 is usually when my show is going off the air because we all just drop what we're doing and run over there to that other place.
Is that the bad thing that goes on? Your show is over?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, that other show just kills my show when we all end up over there.
It's like there's a whirlpool or something that drags everybody else
It's a vortex. Yeah, it's just a vortex of evil that just sucks us all over there.
The swirling vortex of evil can cause a bomb cyclone, and we don't need another one of those.
Oh, God, please.
We don't want that at all. All right, Squib, I know you're kind of busy for a little bit, but hi.
Hi. No, I'm hiding in my truck. I mean, I'm on break. I do have saved up break time. It's really weird using break near the end of my shift, but I am hiding in my truck because those people will just not leave me alone.
Doggone forklift guy anyway.
Yeah. Well, I'm here to make them feel safe and secure. I'm not really here to work, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you guys hiring?
Yeah. Actually, they fired 2 people yesterday, so come on down. You're the next contestant.
Might be a little bit of a commute, but we'll see what we can figure out. All right.
Yeah. It is a little far.
And as usual, last but certainly not least, coming to us from the right here in the great state of Nebraska, we have Travis P11 joining us.
All right, man. Appreciate the invite. Thank you very much. Cheap plugs as usual. Check out Caliber Corner Thursday nights, 5 to 7 Central Time, 6 to 8 East Coast Time. Every week we got a different topic, and a lot of the people on this panel, they're on that show. So while you're at it, why don't you go and subscribe to everybody on this panel and head on over to gunchannels.com, sign up over there. And you can also find me on YouTube with my channel, Travis P11. Thanks for the invite, man.
I almost was there for this week. Almost. I was there for, what was I on there, 30 seconds before?
Yeah, you're like, I got the store all to myself.
I knew that was going to happen. Whenever I'm alone at work and I try and actually get something done, then it never fails. 2 vehicles pull up in the parking lot. So I decided not even to try anything, and I knew I wasn't going to be back.
There's a sign that says open and the sign that says closed. You need to, alternate those a little.
If I have a sign that says closed, but all I can do is turn off the sign that says open. And I can't do that until about the time that Travis is signing off. And so if I'm at work, then it just doesn't work. Maybe this week I'll be off by 5 o'clock and we can.
There you go.
But that means you're just in time to jump into Sarge's or Obnoxious show on Thursday.
You never know what can happen. You never know what can happen. And I said Travis was last, but somebody had to make a liar out of me.
Oh.
So we will circle back around and say hello to Jim Burgess coming out of Texas.
How's it going, y'all?
How's that floor doing? It looks awesome.
Oh, man. My neck and my knees love me.
I bet that's not true.
You'd have made a YouTube channel out of that whole process, dude. I would subscribe and like.
You're still working on that floor?
One room at a time, here and there.
Goodness. Dude, his house is like 10,000 square feet. I mean, what do you expect, man? You can't just
everything's bigger in Texas. So
yeah.
Including the floor. As soon as you get down on your knees and start working on tile, I think that the size of that floor, it looks about 10 times bigger than it did before you started.
Yeah, it felt like that was a pretty small little room for that office, and I felt like I tiled about an acre.
Yeah, I believe you. My wife, I showed the picture of that to my wife, and she said, I wonder if Jim would come up to Nebraska and help us do our office.
Oh, man.
I said, I think we're going to have to pay a little more than just your fuel bill. So.
You got to take me shooting somewhere.
Well, that we can do.
We got that covered. Don't worry.
I mean, if you drive this many hours, driving a couple hours up to the ranch isn't going to be a big deal. We got acres upon acres to go shooting in. So
nice.
We can accommodate that when you make it up this way. So. All right, well, let's see who we have with us. Over on the Gun Channel side, we have Dead Horse in the house. David is doing double duty. Jim's doing... Actually, you guys, maybe you're doing triple duty. I haven't looked to see if you're on the YouTube side yet. And then we've got Husker, Nebraska also with us again this week. So welcome, everybody, on the Gun Channel side. For those of you watching who don't know what Gun Channels is, you need to just go to your web browser, type in gunchannels.com, and go become a member. It's we always call it the water cooler of the Second Amendment community. There's always somebody ready to talk to you about whatever you want to talk to them about, whatever your favorite topic of the day is, whatever you're into, somebody else likes that too. And there's always a lobby chat going on, or almost always. Most of the any time of day, and you can just post up cool pictures and chat with people and get to know folks. So everything that anybody could possibly want, you can find it over at gunchannels.com. And if you put in gunchannels.com/sandhillshooter, then you'll get to the Sandhills Shooter page, and you can watch these live broadcasts right there, simulcast on that page too. So welcome everybody on the Gun Channel side. Now, over on the YouTube side, Sandhills Sweetheart got in here and said hello before even I could do that. And as always, she's my favorite co-host. She doesn't want to be on the camera, but she's in the room and she kind of keeps track of the chat and makes sure I don't miss anything. Who else do we have? We have Bass Boy in here saying he's third because I don't know where you're from, Bass Boy, but apparently you didn't learn to count where I did. Stan is in the house, SS Pond, Lexington, Nebraska. If you are in central Nebraska along I-80, you need to swing in, get off the interstate, and go see Stan. Gary is in the house doing double duty. We've got, who else do we have? Obnoxious One, Calaveras, all doing double duty. 7 kinky wonders. Is that 7 wonders? Or is this somebody new? Well, howdy, whoever you are. Welcome. Stephen Kaiser's back in the house. Good to see Stephen again. Rich Parth is in here. Trigger Plus P. We've got Kinky Sphincter also here. And 7 Wonders here. So apparently 7 Kinky Wonders is the love child of those two.
Interesting.
Yeah. Blue Steel's in the house. And Joe Smith is in the house. Tennessee Gun Guy. Alpha Q2. Jim Burgess, Kingpin. I think I'm missing some people. This chat kind of just took a big jump on me. Mutiny for the Cat from St. Paul, Nebraska. Welcome, Howard County, Nebraska. Number 49 on the license plates for those of you who know what numbers on license plates are all about. So I used to live in Dannebrog, so I had a 49 for a while. All right, and as people come through, that's why I have Sandhills Sweetheart keeping track of the chat. She is also the official greeter. So she says hi to people when I can't stop and just say hi to everybody or I miss anyone. So all right, we're going to get into a little bit here on just talking about the Bill of Rights. And I know we're not going to get through all 10 amendments in the Bill of Rights. Real quick here, for those of you who don't remember everything you learned in history class, or maybe you're younger and you haven't been to that part of history class yet, after the Constitution was ratified, several years later, it was 1791, and the founding fathers decided that we needed to add a few things and some things that weren't listed originally in the Constitution. So they came up with originally 10 amendments. We've got more than that now, but we've got 27 total. But the first 10 were ratified on December 15th, 1791, and the first 10 amendments are what we call the Bill of Rights, because these all now let's say this the right way. These do not give us any rights. The Constitution does not give us any rights. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights recognize that because we are American citizens, we have certain rights just because we were born and breathed there. We are entitled to these rights. And the Bill of Rights was put in place to make sure that the government would never be able to take any of these freedoms away from us. Because again, they all fled from a tyrannical government. They had just fought a few years before that a very bloody war to throw that government out of the colonies and start their own government. And they wanted to make sure that nothing ever changed in the form of the population being stripped of their rights. And so they put a document in place that preserves and protects our rights. We don't have the right because the Constitution says so. We have the right because we were created, and the Constitution says nobody can take it away, or the government can't pass any laws that take any of these freedoms away. So as we go through here, we're going to just kind of roundtable this, and we're going to start with, of course, the First Amendment and work our way through. We'll see how far we get tonight as we go through here. But what I want to do is I'll read the text of the amendment, and then I want us to all just kind of throw our own 2 cents worth in here. Not only what does it mean, or what does it say, but what does it mean? What do we think it means? What does it mean to us? And then what does it mean to just the population in general? So the First Amendment that was ratified, they were all ratified together, but the First Amendment that was listed says Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Now, 5 different freedoms are protected by our First Amendment. And I'm pretty sure if you walk down the street and stopped just 10 random people, probably less than half are going to be able to tell you all 5 freedoms that are protected by their First Amendment. Everybody knows freedom of speech is the biggest one that we hear about. But sometimes I think these get misconstrued, misrepresented sometimes. We hear a lot of things. So if we break this down, we'll just start with each part of it and just kind of go through. So the first thing, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Now, later on, we had things that came about discussing separation of church and state. And a lot of people try and quote the First Amendment to say, freedom of religion and separation of church and state means that we can't have the 10 Commandments written outside, county courthouses or things like that. And we have to do away with things like, our money says, "In God we trust." And a lot of people don't like that, and they think that separation of church and state means that we're not allowed to discuss God whatsoever within the government. I don't think it means that. I think it just means that the government can't tell you that you have to go to church, that you have to go to a specific church, and the government can't tell you that you can't go to whatever church you want. So however you want to worship, that's up to you. The government doesn't get a say so. They can't tell you you can or cannot go. They can't force anybody to go. They can't force anybody not to go. And that's the extent of it. The separation of church and state just means that the government we can't have a state church. To me, that's what it means. What do you guys think?
I'd say you're absolutely right. If you look at when the Constitution itself, the main body, was being written, they were at an impasse. They could not get anything done. You had the North and South, even back then, were fighting each other over various things, namely slavery. And what happened was Benjamin Franklin, who people say is a deist who didn't believe in God, which again is not true, because he stood up and said what they need to do is go to a local church in the Philadelphia area and have a prayer meeting. They did this. It lasted 3 days. And when they came back from their prayer meeting is when they started to come up with all the compromises, such as the 3/5 provision for a slave being 3/5 of a person, and when they came up with the date where slavery could be finally talked about for being outlawed and all that other stuff, that finally allowed them to get past the impasse that they were at and get the Constitution signed and later ratified into law. And then later on, during Thomas Jefferson's term as president, he actually held prayer meetings within the rotunda of the United States Capitol for the members of Congress. They were all non-denominational. One week he would have, say, a Baptist minister come in. Next week he might have a Methodist. The week after that he may have a Jewish rabbi come in. But he held prayer meetings in the rotunda. Thomas Jefferson is the one who wrote the letter to the Danbury Baptist Church, where these people get this idea that there's a separation of church and state, because he uses that phrase, and then they take that, what he would say, completely out of context. But that's where the separation of church and state came from, was the early 20th century, when you had progressives reading those letters and saying that Thomas Jefferson supported this. And it's not true. If you look at the actions Thomas Jefferson actually took when he was president.
The scary part is when you look up separation of church and state on the Google, the vast majority of the articles that come up say it refers directly to the First Amendment and it's connected to the First Amendment. But when you get an actual book, with pages and a cover and all that kind of stuff from those places called libraries, you can really figure out, like what Rich was talking about, the actual truth behind some of this stuff.
No, I started something. I picked him up, and now he wants to hang out. He's bothering me until I pick him back up again because he wants to play. He wants to cuddle. Meow. Everybody always wants to know about the cat. This is Edward. Edward is actually in a couple videos. If you dig back far enough on the channel, you'll find. Make sure you watch them in order. But we had a video that addressed Edward and how we wanted to keep him safe, so we took his claws away because that keeps him safer. Took his weapons away, and now he can't be ever attacked because he doesn't have any claws.
It was only that easy, huh? Yeah.
That's what we did. Watch the video. Yep. It's exactly how it works. So, and then I also put up signs around the house that say "Do not attack the cat." So we're safe now. So it's all good. All the neighborhood cats have so far respected, and the neighborhood dogs have respected the signs. So this is an attack-free zone. All right. Anything else anybody wants to discuss or address as far as freedom of religion? Freedom. It's also freedom from religion, right? I mean, again, we don't have the. I can say whatever I want to. That we'll address that here in a little bit, and I can tell you how I feel and what my faith is, and you guys can't make me shut up about it if I'm in a public place. But at the same time, we not only have the freedom to go to whatever church we want to in this country, and yes, that does mean that people have the freedom to worship in mosques. As much as some of you don't like that, we cannot kick Muslims out of our country simply for being Muslim. The First Amendment says so.
And if people don't want to, worship any religion, that's also covered.
It's freedom from religion. Yes, we don't force anyone to pick a church or to go to a church they don't want to go to, and if they don't want to go to any in this country, that's okay.
I'm kind of careful about freedom from religion because people abuse that. I kind of say it like you're absolutely 100% free to worship any deity, whether real or imagined, that you choose, or no deity at all, or the universe itself, or the flying spaghetti monster, or whatever. But when you get into
the flying spaghetti monster,
that's
I'm interested.
You're a Presbyterian.
Oh.
That's a satire on Christians, basically. But I bring it out there. You can worship anything or nothing at all. But when I think there's even a freedom from religion movement where they twist that into freedom of religion, or the Establishment Clause protects people from seeing any vestige of faith whatsoever in the public square, which is not the case.
That's what I was getting at when I said separation of church and state does not mean that we're not able to pray in our schools or in our courthouses, or that the county courthouse can't choose to have the Ten Commandments out front. Freedom from religion or separation of church and state, I don't think means that at all. I think it just means that, again, there's going to be no state-founded church.
I think the beauty of all of our founding documents are the fact that they're written so you can read them for word, verbatim, off the page, and they mean exactly what they say they mean. Now we've got into where we've got to analyze and study out and try to understand what the root word this means. No, the men that wrote it and put it together in such a way that you look at it, you read the words, and that's what it means.
Mm-hmm. In fact, even in, I don't know what size print I have this set on my monitor, but I can almost fit all 10 amendments on the screen without having to scroll. I only have to scroll just a little bit on the mouse to switch between the top and the bottom of the list of the Bill of Rights. So not only are they easy to read, but they're short. They're concise. They say what they mean what they say, and there's not a bunch of extra lawyer speak in there, which I agree with you. That is very nice. When it took, I think, 23 pages just to print out the excuse me just a second. It took 23 pages just to print the proposed red flag law for the state of Nebraska. And then I can fit on one legal pad anyway, the whole Bill of Rights. Then yeah, I don't understand why we have to put so much extra, I guess, filler into things now.
The founding fathers intentionally wanted everybody to be able to read and understand the amendments, and even the Constitution itself was written pretty plainly. Unfortunately, the powers that be nowadays often don't want people to be able to read and understand it, so that way, it's, the people who are reliant upon the powers that be to tell them what it means.
Yeah, it's really telling when you look at the Constitution. You can get a little pocket Constitution book that is smaller in some cases than some of the religious tracts that Jehovah's Witness may try and slide under your door or drop in your mailbox.
Calaveras, you make a pretty good point too, that now we have to have it defined for us, but it's somebody else's definition, and we don't always know what their intention is when they tell us what that definition is. It could be to simply push their own agenda, to push their own point, and that's very dangerous.
It often is to push their own point, and that's where, unfortunately, when you're reliant upon that, it's impossible to know. But that's where, and it doesn't matter if they're pushing, a agenda from right, left, center, up, down, whatever. It's still an agenda.
Yep, exactly right. And and I believe that the people that wrote these and ratified them had an agenda too. But their agenda was to keep the document from which our government is derived, to follow the KISS principle. Just keep it super simple. And we've kind of gotten away from that, partly because of, I think there's an agenda. I think that some of the laws that are established now are intentionally written in such a way that you almost have to be a student of law in order to understand what they say. And so it comes down to, well, I don't have time or the patience always to read through this entire proposed amendment or proposed law. And so I'm just going to base this off of, who it was that introduced it. And they've always said that, they were not going to, try and take away my guns. So it must be an okay law if they're behind it. So I'll just go ahead and vote yes. And there's so many people that don't know necessarily even what they're voting for. And I think that's dangerous. It's equally dangerous for the people that just decide it's not worth the hassle, and it drives them away from the ballot box altogether too. So I think that it's a double-edged sword there. But yeah, I think that there is an agenda sometimes. Okay, moving right along here. Anything else that we want to mention as far as religion or no religion even? Anyone? Bueller?
Nothing here.
Bueller? Okay, so the next clause here.
One final point. The whole point of the Establishment Clause was to keep the United States government from doing what they did in the UK when they established the Church of England and tried banning every other religion.
You're right, and very well put. And the separation of church and state just means that not only do we not have a state church or an official church, but the church does not make the laws in this country either, which we did see in several different countries in the past. So. Okay, so the next clause, or abridging, this is continuation of Congress shall make no law, abridging the freedom of speech. So again, now, I know that this is another thing that people, I think, sometimes misconstrue or misrepresent quite often. Freedom of speech to me means that if I'm in a public place or I'm speaking even on social media now, and that gets into the gray area. We can cover that. I am a guest in YouTube's or in Google's house or Facebook's house or Twitter's, whatever. I agreed to their user agreement. So I don't have complete reign to do whatever, say whatever I want to with no recourse there. But if I'm out on the sidewalk, I'm on public property, public right of way, and I'm not inciting violence. I'm just stating my opinion, and I'm bad-mouthing the government. Maybe I'm saying we need to impeach the president, something like that. I cannot be imprisoned for saying what I think, that we need to impeach the president, or that the government is all a bunch of crooks, or whatever it is that I would choose to say. I can't go to jail for that. That doesn't mean that I can say whatever I want to with no recourse 100% and get off scot-free no matter what happens. I might say something like, and I would not say this, I'm just for an example here. I might say, or someone might say to me that, when the soldiers go to war in Iraq, Afghanistan, wherever, and get injured and come home missing a limb, that, they were evil and they got what they deserved. And while that person has the right guaranteed by the First Amendment to say such a thing, that doesn't mean that I have to like it, that I have to keep listening to them, anything like that. If they're in public, then they can say what they want, and I have the freedom to just walk away. But if you say something directly against me, just because you can't be put in jail for it doesn't mean that I can't get mad, punch you in the nose for it. Something like that. So we do have the freedom to say what we want without fear of imprisonment. And that's
the way it's written. Unfortunately, that's, I'm sure as everyone here knows, that's not the way it actually works.
You're right.
That's not referring to even YouTube, Facebook, or whatever, where you're following house rules the same as you would going over to your buddy's place. But that's where talking about, like, okay, you think saying we should impeach the president, legal. Saying you wanted to, this is a theoretical conversation, wanting to do harm to said, to a particular member of government with...
You will get a visit from the Secret Service.
Exactly.
That's a call to action, though.
Yeah, that's really a call to action. That's an active threat.
Yeah, it's a threat.
It's treated different, even though it's only being done verbally. It is treated slightly differently. So even though the amendment says freedom of speech, there is certain caveats that have been placed on them.
Well, sure, but again, that's that it goes back to making a terroristic threat or inciting violence, which has never been okay. Somebody again, and once again, it's sad we have to say these disclaimers first, but in no way whatsoever does anybody on this panel want to incite violence or cause harm to anybody. We know that. But if somebody were to go out in public and say, again, pick a person in the government, I don't like that person, and I wish that person would die. That's okay. That's protected. You cannot say, hey, everybody grab your torch and pitchfork and let's go to their house. No, that's not okay. Again, because it's a call to action, it's inciting violence. And we all need to, not us necessarily in the panel, but as Americans, we all need to remember what is and isn't okay.
Well, that's one of the problems I have with the first theory that you brought up, is if we're standing on the street corner and I say, I don't like your hat, just making something up, and you get mad and punch me in the nose, you don't have the right to punch me in the nose. You've just committed a crime. So my free speech still stands, and you've committed a crime for assaulting me. So that's the problem that I have with there's consequences to what you say, is when the consequences you've assaulted me, that you don't have the right to do that because I've made you angry. And a lot of people think that if you say something bad about me, obviously not, it's got to be serious, and you make me mad, then I've got the right to haul off and pop you in the nose, but I don't have that right.
There are cases where you do. There is a doctrine in the legal system. It's known as the fighting words document. If what they say is heinous enough and you completely lose your temper because of what they've said to you, and it has to be provable and you have to have witnesses. But if they say something like they're going to go out and beat up your wife Something it has to raise to that level. There are instances where you can haul off and wail on them, and they'll be the ones at fault and not you because they incited you to do that with their words.
What if they call me a Hillary supporter?
That goes back to the original point that Calaveras and Sandhills were just making. You can't make threats. That's not protected under the free speech. But if I just, I'm calling you a chump and a loser and giving you the run down the river, just because I've made you mad doesn't give you the right to hit me. Now, I do understand if I said I'm going to go do harm to your family member or I'm going to do harm to you in the next few minutes, yes, you can defend yourself. But if I'm just insulting you, then you can't hit me.
That depends on how your state law is written.
What if you're wearing?
It doesn't matter how the state law is written. You cannot punch me in the nose because I said something you don't like.
Well, hold on though. What if?
Hold on. Go ahead, Sam.
What if you're wearing a MAGA hat? Then can we just punch you for no reason?
Yeah, that's different.
Okay, that's different. That's what I thought.
Yeah,
I think what Rich is talking about is the interpretation of the law in a particular area. That's why we have judges and juries and things like that. Like he said, you have to have witnesses. They've got to say certain things that constitute a threat, fighting words, a threat of physical harm, something that would cause you to feel that you would have to fight them. And then, once again, it would still be at the discretion of law enforcement showing up, and then it would be discretion of the district attorney and the judge. And so that's why we have a system, fair or not, that's why we have a system like that in order to be able to determine if that was the case or you just lost your cool.
Yeah, and it also applies if, say, somebody does say something where they're just insulting you, you try and walk away from them, and they still continue to follow you and still keep yelling these obscenities and whatever else at you, that also rises to the level of the fighting words. So there are a couple
that can be interpreted as assault too.
And that also, that changes.
Verbal assault.
The First Amendment is that we're covering right now is strictly on the words that I'm saying out of my mouth into your ears. It's not that I've followed you and I'm harassing you and I'm also putting you in fear. That's a whole different thing. Once again, that is illegal. You cannot stalk somebody. You cannot harass somebody like that. But I can stand there and call you a jive turkey all day, and you can't do anything about it except for argue back with me or leave.
Now
I can ship you back to the 70s.
I was wondering once jive turkey came out of my mouth.
Hey, I totally got what he was saying. So
I know I would catch it for that.
Okay, so let me throw this one out there now, because I have my own opinion, and I want to know what everybody else thinks. Hate speech. I think hate speech isn't real. I think the First Amendment says that I can say whatever I want. And again, hate speech there is such a thing as ugliness, right? There are words that we will not use on this channel that pertain to, different groups of people, whether it's the skin color, ethnicity, sexual orientation. There are words that we're not going to call people because they're very, very hurtful and rude. But if somebody, again, in a public forum, and they want to, I guess, for example, let's say that a KKK member, which they pretty much don't like anybody who's not white. So if a KKK member wants to speak out and say hurtful things towards people of different ethnicities, different skin colors, different sexual orientations, whatever it is, a lot of people today want to call that hate speech, and they want to make special laws that differentiate between that kind of speech versus just regular bad, obnoxious, offensive speech.
What you got against guys wearing orange shirts?
A lot.
I'm taking back the word obnoxious.
See, the thing about the orange shirts is I know a lot of guys that they wear them on Saturday to support their team for football, and then on Sunday to go hunting, and then Monday through Friday as they're picking trash up along the road. So No, I'm just.
You say there's no such thing as hate speech.
That's that's not meant to be hate speech, guys. No, the thing is though that even though I think that the KKK is wrong in every fundamental sense that there is, we can't tell them they can't gather. We can't, and that's we'll get to there too. But we can't tell them that they're not allowed to say things, no matter how obnoxious, no matter how hurtful they are. Words are protected, and so I don't think that hate speech is real. I don't think that hate speech needs to be recognized. I think that putting words on a list that it's unlawful to speak them or write them, I think is the first step in restricting freedom of speech. And even though I don't agree with the words that certain people say, that is not grounds for me to tell them they can't say it. What do you guys think about that?
Certainly not under force of law. I mean,
Yeah, so having subcategories within our vocabulary of these, these phrases are, more hurtful than those ones. These, whatnot. I don't have an issue with saying, well, these ones are not nice. These ones are, bad. These ones are hateful. Whatever category you want to put it in your own construct for your society. I don't have an issue with trying to put a legal construct behind it, saying that if you use the ones off of this list, then this is going to happen. That I have an issue with.
If you could point me to an instance of hate speech directed at every single ethnicity or every single whatever division you want to make, then I'd say hate speech could be valid. But you can't, so it's not. So hate speech is only directed at, can only be directed at certain things, no matter how hateful and disgusting whatever thing somebody says to a gun owner, that's never going to be hate speech. So,
well, and that's the problem with it, is it's so subjective, right? It's what's in,
like I said,
it's what's in vogue.
If you could point to, an example of it against everybody that you were willing to enforce, then I might give it some credence, but you can't, so I won't.
Is that kind of like over the weekend when and again we don't usually talk about headlines on 2A Tuesday because I know that so many people on gun channels do, and you can hear several different chats catching you up on what's happened over the weekend. But Easter Sunday was 2 days ago, and the island country of Sri Lanka had 6 different bombs go off. 3 of them were in luxury hotels catering to tourists, and 3 of them were in Christian churches. And we had there's a lot of people that are kind of fired up over the way this was handled by certain people on the left end of the spectrum when they posted their their tweets or whatever, because at no point did anybody on the left that I've seen, maybe they did, but as far as the people who tend to be, I guess the mouthpieces for the left or for the Democratic Party, I haven't seen anybody yet use the word Christians that were attacked.
No, they call them Easter worshipers.
They said that they have condolences for the Easter worshipers.
Exactly what is that? Is that something pagan that I missed out on?
I don't know. Is that those of you that know what Veggie Tales is, I think if you sing the bunny song, you might be an Easter worshiper. Here's the thing though. Why did they say that? Because we can't go around tweeting out that there's been an attack on Christians. Christians have never been the victims. Christians have always been the evil oppressors in their line of thinking. And so when something bad happens to Christians, we can't say, hey, you Muslim people that bombed the Christians, shame on you, because it goes against everything that they've been saying for so long. And so they had to come up with a term that didn't use the name of Christ in it.
Well, Robert Francis O'Rourke, and I think his name is Michael Yang. I'm not too sure. I know his last name is Yang. He's another presidential candidate. They actually use the word Christian, and then you'll see them start facing that fallout. They'll have to answer to that because they don't use that term because it's been blacklisted. And if they give in to that and they give any type of credence or mercy or understanding to that term Christian, then they're racist, sexist, bigoted homophobes. They've made this bed and now they have to lie in it.
Well, and I tell you what, if somebody says the word Christian and there's backlash from their party, I'm not naming names, but they might not do well in the presidential election, no matter how handsome they are.
People are just too sensitive.
Yeah, nobody remembers the old axiom of sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Words are hurtful, Rich, and I can't believe you said that. I am offended.
You need a hug. Yeah, I don't believe in hate speech at all.
I think Sandhills needs a safety pin.
Not to change the subject, I don't
We
believe
get
it.
Edward back in here. He was making too much noise, so I booted him out of the room.
Okay, so when do you cross the line over from hate speech to just being rude then? Because we could take this in a different direction.
I think that being rude is constitutionally protected.
I think being downright.
I'm going to keep this PG-13. Being an a-hole is constitutionally protected. You have the right to be a jerk if you want to be.
Yeah, I don't agree with Bill Maher on a lot of things, but there was one thing he said a while back when he was still doing Politically Incorrect that I absolutely agree with him. Nobody has the right to not be offended.
Nope. And on the flip side of that, people have the right to be downright despicable in what they say. In most or all cases, and that doesn't mean that there won't be consequences, but there should certainly never be government sanction for such things.
Now, I agree that we should, if we take a step back and we think about the argument, well, people shouldn't say that. You're right. They shouldn't say it. We should raise our kids how to not be little jerks. That is on those of you who are parents, those of you who work with children every day. Travis, partly that's on you to help set an example of how not to be a jerk to people. And I know you understand that as a teacher. But just because people
stuff like
that.
That all can't be taught in school, and it needs to fall on the parents. Unfortunately, there's all too much that's left to the schools.
It seems like the teachers.
No, Calaveras. The schools will undo whatever work the parents do, just like YouTube, just like the movie, just like TV, just all the stuff that is out there. Once your children leave your house, people working against you as a parent to undo anything you teach them, good or bad. They're working to undo it. Whether they think they're doing you a favor or whatever it is, it's an uphill battle these days as a parent to try to teach your kids right.
You're kind of cutting in and out, but I think we know what you're. I think we know what you're saying, Squib. You're kind of. Yep, he's gone. he'll be back. But no, I think what he's trying to say is that no matter how much time you spend with your kids trying to teach them right from wrong, that the school system will try, and whether it's intentional or not, the school system will try to teach them something maybe that's contrary to what we commonly think is morality or things like that. I know we're getting away from the amendments here, but I guess one of the things that I'd like to see, if we go back to the topic of sex ed in schools and things like that, we can teach kids that they can go to Planned Parenthood and get free birth control, free prophylactics, not free, but at 16 you can go get an abortion. But at no point is anybody, as far as most state lawmakers, federal lawmakers go, They don't want to teach that abstinence is the only 100% fail-proof method to avoid pregnancy, to avoid STDs. We can't call them diseases anymore. We have to say sexually transmitted infections.
Hives, yes.
Diseases sounds too terrible to think of, and we don't want people to say disease anymore, but that's what it is. So yeah, I think what Squib was meaning is that the school system will try to, whether they try to intentionally or not, they'll kind of undo a lot of what even some of the good parents are trying to instill in their kids.
Oh yeah, that's for
Still with us?
Yeah, he froze up bad.
You got NSA.
He might have to.
He got vinegared. Pickle got vinegared.
And STI needs to sue the government for violating their initial copyright.
Yeah, they do. Okay, free speech. Real quick before I go too far, Adam Jimenez out there in the chat. No, I'm not off the hook. I'm gonna make my own response. For those of you who don't know, Adam Jimenez has put out a challenge to all of us to make a video about what the Second Amendment means to us. We'll hopefully get there yet tonight through the panel anyway. But if you haven't made that video, go watch Adam's challenge and then make your VR to that. I know some of you already have. Okay, so we covered
roboting a second ago.
You're back. What was that?
I was saying, how bad was I roboting? I noticed as I was talking, all of a
You
sudden,
dropped out completely.
You just said the thing is, and then we didn't hear you anymore.
Great, thank you.
So, do you want to tell us what the thing is?
It was glorious.
Move on.
Okay, all right. So we've talked about religion. We've talked about free speech. Does anybody have anything else they want to talk about as far as free speech goes, and what the freedom of speech?
Are we going to cover freedom of expression as a separate thing?
Freedom of expression. Show me where that is in the First Amendment.
Okay, doesn't the First Amendment allow you to burn an American flag?
The courts have ruled yes.
Okay.
They've ruled it's protected
under the First Amendment, right? The freedom of expression.
Yeah,
Actually, they lump it under freedom of speech. It's basically making a statement.
Yes,
Well, I would like to address that specifically.
Go ahead, Quib.
Yeah.
I think that in a true free society where we can express ourselves, that we should be allowed to burn the American flag, or we should be allowed to violate flag code without threat of imprisonment or anything else like that. But I would love to see there be a federal law passed that says that if you burn an American flag on public property, any veteran who passes you has the right to beat you to a pulp and will not face any prosecution. I would love for that to be a federal law, because I love that flag. And I understand where it's the irony of it. It absolutely is the irony that it's just like when people protest the military. It's like you're protesting the very people that are preserving your freedom to protest them. Well, you're burning the flag of the country, the symbol of the country that allows you to burn the symbol of the country. It's just,
It's ironic. Now, I would like to respectfully disagree with that, your proposed law, Squib. The only thing that I would disagree with, I would change the wording from veteran to citizen, because I'm not a veteran, and if I see anybody burning the flag, and I'm not going to say that I love her as much as you do, because I never pledged my life and limb to her, but I love that flag a lot. And I don't know what it means to be a veteran, but I know what it means to be an American. And I want to get in on that stomping if I could. I don't want it just to be the veterans. I don't want to be excluded from stomping somebody for burning that flag in a public place. Now, having said that, I recognize the fact that it is right now legal to do so. I cannot stomp them, and I would not or will not commit an assault.
So the point you two
Boy, it sure
are
would be
making
nice,
is,
though.
is
It
that
sure would be nice.
the point you two are making is that burning the flag is hate speech. That is the exact point you're making.
No.
Yes, it is.
No,
Yes, it
no,
is.
it is.
Yes,
Okay, bye.
yes, it is.
Well,
What? So, hey, I got a question for you guys. Then, okay, listen.
You bring up an interesting point, Obnoxious, and I want to get to that after Travis has his question.
All right, real quick. So we say that we don't think that people should be allowed to burn the flag. We should be able to stomp on them. What if we turn into 50 states of tyranny, or we turn into a dictatorship, or we turn into some sort of authoritarian government? Wouldn't you like to have that right to show your? What if the Stars and Stripes no longer represent what they used to? And I don't know. I'm just saying, what if at some point you would want to express yourself? Wouldn't you like to be able to do that without being stomped by somebody?
I had never thought about it the way that Obnoxious just said it. And I think that you're kind of making a similar, it sounds kind of what you're saying is similar to what Obnoxious was saying.
I'm not saying I would ever want to, but what if the military that's wearing those Stars and Stripes turn on civilians?
But
what
if
if that's
the
being
case,
paraded around as a point of nationalism? I'm
if
just
that
saying.
were to happen, would our free speech be intact at that point anyway?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, we'd probably be in hiding, those of us who still want that flag to stand for what she used to stand for in that case.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm just a question on that. I mean, at some point, if you want to be able to express yourself, wouldn't you want that right? A second question I have, and I've been thinking about this, we've been talking about hate speech, saying that people that say it's not real or doesn't exist or it's just a figment. What about hate crimes?
I think
are they just
category?
They're just crimes, then, right?
If somebody assaults somebody, that is assault. Maybe it's assault and battery. Maybe it's murder, whether it's first, second, third degree, whatever. I think that murder is murder, that assault is assault. I don't think that the skin color or the sexual orientation or whatever should have any bearing on the penalty. I don't think that if a white person shoots a white person and then a different white person shoots a black person, that could be called a hate crime. And I don't think that penalty should be any greater than the penalty for the first scenario. And if it is, I think that takes away from the families or the victim in that first crime, because it tells them that they're not as important. And I don't think that any one person, any one religion, race, creed, whatever, is more important than anyone else in this country. And I think that our founding fathers and everyone since then has worked hard. And it's changed even since this country was founded. We got it wrong to begin with. We've since fixed it. Now nobody's more important than anybody else, unless you make the laws and you think that some of them don't apply to you. That seems to be the case in certain circumstances, but I don't think that there should be such a thing as a hate crime either. Because again, if something happens to one of my family and then something happens to my neighbors across the street who are not the same skin color as me, and whatever happens, the aggressor in their situation gets a stiffer penalty than something that happened to my family, what does that tell me about me and my family? We don't matter.
I don't believe in hate crime either.
So,
the question you got to ask is just how many violent crimes committed against somebody are committed out of love? And there's your answer to
every crime's a hate crime. That's just like the word assault weapon. Any weapon I choose to assault you with becomes an assault weapon.
Well, and another thing, as far as burning the flag, I'm 100% against it. You'll never see me do it, and you'll never see me support anybody who does or any organization that does. But if the problem is with burning the flag, there's a system that's been set up to fix that. If the majority of people in Nebraska say no burning the flags in Nebraska, there's bills that can be written that make it illegal to burn one. It doesn't. You don't have to get a gang of people with pitchforks and go attack the person burning the flag, and you don't have to have a big argument about it. It's either it's legal or it's not. And if it's legal, then it's legal, plain and simple. If you don't like the fact that it's legal, there's petitions that you can make in the system that we have set up that can fix that.
Yeah, but it's pretty much already been settled that it can't be illegal.
Well, that's what I mean.
Specifically with burning the flag.
It went through the system and came out that it's 100% legal to burn the flag.
Right. And at the risk of earning some more of Squib's ire, I think it's satisfying to say you'd like to beat the snot out of someone who disrespectfully burns the flag, but at the same time, you're basically, if that's the case, you have to then recognize other people's It's a bit of a slippery slope. You have to recognize other people's thresholds. Some people are going to say,
I agree.
White hockey cracker is so offensive that I get to beat the crap out of you now. I
agree with the slippery slope part.
Are you for freedom and individual liberty, or are you not? Because that's what it comes down to. I didn't say I agree with anybody burning the flag.
No.
I didn't say it was that I thought it was right.
That wasn't the question, was it?
It was whether they had the right to.
Right.
They have the right to do it, and I support their right to do it. And I'm sure Squib is out there steaming right away saying, I don't love the flag as much as he does, and maybe I don't.
But at the same time,
I believe in absolute personal freedom and liberty.
Yeah, and you know what? I might mess up someday and do something in the name of my own personal freedom that offends somebody so much that I might get a smackdown put on me, and that doesn't make that smackdown right. You know what I'm saying? One of these days, somebody's going to walk up. It happens every day. Somebody's going to walk up to the wrong person and say the wrong thing, and they're going to get their butt whipped.
Sure.
And
now
that is not necessarily right of the person who initiates that assault to do so.
Well,
but sometimes, people have their thresholds, and that might be a consequence of what you say.
They have the right to freedom of speech, and they also may need to think about what they're doing because they may get a very unwanted response.
Right.
Now, I doesn't give somebody else the right to beat them down.
I didn't say it did.
I know,
but it may happen.
But that's what Squib wanted.
Right, and
he wanted to have the right, and I am absolutely, my rights end at your nose, your rights end at my nose. Now, if I went and took your flag, and I
guess that's a better way to look at it.
Your flag and burned it, then yeah.
Okay.
I deserve a beat down because I have taken your property and burned it. If I take my flag and burn it
in front of you,
that's too bad.
I want to jump in here real quick and just say that I think I know where Squib was coming from. I do know where I was coming from. And when he said that, I think that was partly Squib being Squib and playing a little devil's advocate there. And I honestly don't think, and if Squib, if you're listening to this right now or later on, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. I honestly don't think that Squib wants to take away the rights of somebody to do that. But what he said right at the end was, it sure would be nice. Now, I agree with that. It sure would be nice. There's a lot of people saying it sure would be nice if we could take away things from people, and thank God they don't have that with their way yet. But I recognize the fact that I can say it sure would be nice. I still recognize the fact that I would never vote for taking away the rights to burn the flag or fly it upside down or do whatever disrespectful thing there is. We have the right in this country, like I said, to be jerks. Now, having said that, yeah, it would be nice. I wish that it would be legal and I'd be justified. I do recognize the fact that if I saw somebody burning a flag and I walked up there and punched him in the nose, that I would be responsible for my actions. I would have committed my own crime, assault and battery, and I would be responsible for that.
Just remember that freedom of speech does not cover fighting words. Something that you do that is likely to cause a physical response is not covered.
Right. But if I just quit burning the flag and I started the fight, that's on me. And I get that. And I don't think that I...
No, but in the right situation, burning a flag could provoke a physical response.
It could.
And would it be freedom of speech?
Because of I'm not a veteran. But
Well,
I
that
do want
means you got
to.
your butt kicked, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the person was justified in doing so. You know what I'm saying?
I'm
And
just
then
saying.
also keep in mind in this country that whether or not there is a, how do I say it? Whether or not there's a legal protection or constitutional protection, getting into that altercation could bring around a civil liability as well, and a civil suit.
Let me put
Criminal. That's what I'm saying. It may be protected from being going to a criminal case, but it could still bring about a civil case.
let me put this out here. Everybody's heard of the Westboro Baptist Church, right?
Unfortunately, yes.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Okay.
Use the term
Um,
church very loosely.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
what? I think Frankie
Do you
falls for
think that anybody should be able to go up and curb stomp every single one of them that stands outside a soldier's funeral?
Nope.
Nope. As much as I'd like to, I recognize the fact that we can't take away that right.
There you go. Then burning the flag is the same thing.
And I agree.
What we can't do is divulge into a mob. That's one of the other unique things about the United States and this experiment that we got going on here, that this nation is built on, is we don't let the mob win. Just because 50 people don't like what Obnoxious is doing doesn't give them the right to stomp him out for any reason. We can't just allow that kind of stuff to happen. That's what separates us from the other animals in the kingdom. We don't have to divulge ourselves to violence and stuff like that.
Sounds kind of like those Antifa guys, huh?
Exactly.
Yep, I agree. Now we're getting kind of into some other stuff here. Before we get over to the mob and things like that, the mob mentality, not organized crime, mind you. Real quick, I want to cover the freedom of the press as well. And this could take us a while too, because freedom of the press at the time, there was only printing presses and handwritten word, right? There wasn't any kind of electronic broadcast in those days. So, of course, radio, TV, internet, things like that aren't listed in the First Amendment. So that's brought in its own arguments as far as what's protected, what's not protected. Obviously, printed word is protected unless it's libel. And in spoken word, unless it's slanderous, that's not protected either. There are laws against slander and libel. But the press is protected. Now, again, why was that put in the First Amendment? Because the government can't control what gets printed in the newspapers. It was the government is not allowed to say you can't print that story. Anything that you can prove to be true, you can print in our country. What do you guys think about that? Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Once again, going back to the way the founders wrote it on the paper and what they meant by what the words they wrote down say, I 100% support the freedom of the press. The way it's been twisted up now, that's the thing you can usually tell about somebody who cares about freedom and who doesn't. I don't want to see CNN go off the air because they were forced off the air. I want to see CNN go off the air because people turned the channel and chose not to watch, or any station, Fox, any of them, whatever, the Nickelodeon, it doesn't matter what it is. I don't want them to be forced off the air because, once again, the mob decided that it's not good enough, and then that mob is usually not the majority of the people. It's just the loudest people. I want people to not like what's on the television or the newspaper or the internet or at the cafe to stop using it. That's the best way.
What did I just see about? I don't know if it was recent or if it was over the last year or what it was, but I just saw something come through here not too long ago that the Food Network, I think it was, actually brought in more viewers than CNN. So some of what you're saying is sometimes it happens. Sometimes the ratings just aren't there. It's kind of like anytime there's an election year, especially a local election, whether it's state legislature or federal legislature, whatever it is, when there's campaign ads going left and right every commercial break. I'm sure glad that I DVR most of the shows that I watch, and I just skip over those ads because I get so tired of them. And it would actually sometimes some of that, even those ads would cause me not to watch some of the local channels if I didn't have the option to skip over some of that. That's just me talking. I'm not saying that they shouldn't advertise at all. I'm just saying that would make me vote with my remote. Or sometimes some of the things that are covered or the things that aren't covered or the way that they're covered. And I'll be the first to tell you that I don't think that there's a news channel that I get on my satellite dish that isn't biased, whether it's one way or the other. I have not yet found one that I can watch regularly that's middle of the road. So I tend to watch the channel that has the people that I agree with more, but I again, I'm with you. I don't think that we should take those other channels off the air. I just I wish that the American people would hold all the news networks, the newspapers, accountable and hold their feet to the fire a little bit as far as we don't want watered down stories. We don't want watered down truth. We want the whole truth. We want, just like in a court of law, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Although I guess a lot of those shows are based on commentary and interpretations of the people on the shows. But if you're actually reporting the story, I want to know everything, not just the parts that you want me to see, or the parts that you agree with what you want out there. So that's what's kind of hard to find anymore. But going back to the freedom of the press, should public forums like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, should those private companies be required to allow any kind of speech whatsoever, or should they be protected to have their own guidelines and determine what they will and won't allow?
It depends. If we're talking about the protections that they've been given because they're quote unquote a platform, then they should allow anything and everything, and they shouldn't have algorithms to push down certain speech. Mm-hmm. If they're operating as a media company, as they all are, they shouldn't have the protections of being a platform.
So if the protections are like a form of liability from what people put on there, like they're not endorsing,
right?
Is that what it is?
So they're
trying to play it both ways.
They have been granted protection against copyright claims against them. They're protected from somebody putting a live stream of a shooting up. They aren't held responsible for that because they're a platform. They are granted protections as a platform, and they act like a media company. Mm-hmm. Because they do curate the news. They do curate the opinions. They do have their algorithms, and they do put their spin on what goes out. And they're protected as a platform when they should be treated as the media companies that they are.
I didn't get in here early enough to talk about hate speech.
Go for it. And welcome, Sarge, by the way.
Oh, thank you. And hate crimes. Hate crimes do exist. And it's not that it undermines the individual. It's, if someone has an issue with someone and that ends up turning into an assault, that's one thing. If it, like you said, if it was a robbery that went bad, it's another. But if someone is singled out purely on something they can't change, like their skin color, sexual orientation, religion, that is, it's a little bit of it's an aggravating factor. So it does make it a little bit worse.
But I mean, I think the thing is that when we, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, maybe more about the justice system than I do. When we have these sorts of things, like this guy's gay, and I go and beat the stuffing out of him simply because he's gay. Not that I would do that, but hypothetically, right? That's a crime motivated by hate. It's an assault motivated by hate.
Yeah, but do we run into needing these hate crime enhancements because we've been so light on the actual crime? If we took a murderer and treated them as a murderer, no matter who they murdered, instead of, oh yeah, it's a murder, so he gets 10 years. But if he murdered him because he's black, now he gets 20 years. What if they got 20 years no matter what? I mean, do we need the hate crime enhancements because we've been so light on the actual crime?
Well, then there's that, and also the way we sentence these things, and this is where I was going to kind of go with it, is those motives are already taken into account. And what hate crime does is takes away the flexibility and the common sense of the judge doing the sentencing to just say, you will do this no matter what if it's determined that it was a crime based on X motive, and I think that's where we push it too far. I mean, there's already a lot of precedent set where the motivation of the crime, is taken into account and even defines the crime, right? There's different types of murder.
Yeah, there's different degrees, right? Is how they.
Right. There's premeditated murder. There's premeditated murder while you're committing another crime. There's those sorts of things. There's heat of passion murder, which is also manslaughter.
And Sarge, you're the only law enforcement officer we have in the panel, but I'm not just defaulting this directly to you. But if I were to murder somebody, and it was,
who was it and why?
What? Okay, but it's
Don't
the
tell
why determines whether or not it was premeditated, right? Sometimes.
Oh, there's a lot of things.
If I go out and shoot somebody,
why?
And it turns out that I had a fight with them, and I just really hate this person.
Okay.
And I shoot that person because I don't like them. And then versus I just decided one day to go out and just randomly shoot somebody. I don't know who they are from Adam, but I shot them because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. But still, I went out and planned to shoot somebody. I just decided to pick my victim when I got there. And I didn't know him and I didn't hate him. Do I get a different sentence?
I don't know how the structured sentencing is, but you've got aggravating factors in both.
I mean, have I committed a different crime if I knew the one person and didn't like him?
Well, I mean, if you planned it, yeah, you premeditated it, and you knew it wasn't it wasn't that you made a mistake. It wasn't that you acted on a whim. You planned this out, had plenty of time to talk yourself out of it, but you were going through with it.
Hate crimes.
Now the random crime where they just pick someone, I mean, it's equally as bad. I don't know exactly how the charging would go, state to state.
From when I say
that person is just as much of a danger or more to society. Well, probably just as much of a danger because they could just randomly go off on anyone, and the person that murders a specific person could conceivably, what was the argument over? Was it something minor? Was it something major? Is this a one-time thing that this situation probably would never occur again? Or was it because he cut him off in traffic? Which there's a whole lot of factors there. I can't quite give you a great answer, but they're both equally as horrible.
Do you see where I'm coming from, though? Where I've committed a murder either way.
Well, how about this? Okay.
Or potentially going to lose my life either way. And if one crime gives me, 99 to life, and the other crime gives me death in the same state, but I guess I don't understand why one gets a different penalty than the other just because emotion was involved and hatred was involved.
Because there's all different classifications and aggravating factors. It just there's every state has different laws. I don't know.
Sure.
I can't answer all of that.
And again, a disclaimer.
And Obnoxious says the same things, protected class status.
The views and opinions expressed by anyone on the panel are just their personal beliefs. None of us are lawyers. None of us are giving legal advice.
I've
And I
never
didn't stay at a
stated
Holiday
about
Inn last
being
night.
like
Yeah.
that. Look, hate crimes and hate speech are taking the blindfold off of Lady Justice. That's just how it is. If you allow me to walk across the street and kill a black guy because he's black, and you give me a harsher sentence than if I walked across the street and killed a white guy, whether I hate him, whether I don't, Sandhills is making a good point. There's a murder, and it's whether it's I get the premeditated and I get the planning and all that kind of stuff that's going to go into it, but the fact that I killed that guy because he's black should have no difference than the next door neighbor who killed the next door neighbor who happened to be the same skin color as them.
But it
Yeah.
shows
if
the
I-
complete how that person is non-reformable. That
If-
they
if
would
I-
do that purely because of just the way the person looked,
Let's say
just
that
because of their
it's the same
color.
situation.
That's
Let's say
Yeah, but that's what I
they're
mean. So
non-reformable.
if you kill somebody because he ran over your dog by accident, or he cut a tree down and it broke your fence, or whatever reason you're going to kill somebody.
Yeah, what if, let's say I'm having a property line dispute with my next door neighbor, and either way the argument gets heated, and I was to pull out a firearm and shoot my next door neighbor. Now, in one scenario, he's the same color as me, and I just shot him because
Yeah,
we
just
were having
because someone's a different race doesn't mean it's a hate crime.
Now hold on. The other case, it's a different color than me, and I said, all you fill in the blank of whatever race are all the same, and I hate all of you. And then I shoot them.
You're having the same property dispute.
Documented.
And
So
you're having
now
the
I have
same property dispute.
for a whole race of people. Have I
I
committed
don't.
a worse crime there than if I
I
shot?
don't think that's the same thing because we're still having the property dispute, correct?
No, okay. So
Except
I'm
one
not.
time.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you're still having the same.
I'm
I
not
mean, just
targeting.
because you threw in some stuff
I'm
at
not
the
going out
end.
picking off black people, for instance.
And
just
and
because
I
they're black.
and I think we're getting back to, have we watered down our justice system so much where that if you go out and murder, there's no just judge's discretion at it, where the judge knows that this is a one-time thing and it's never going to happen again, or it's brought up that he did this simply because the person was black or Mexican or whatever, and that it could happen again. That we've watered down our justice system so that unless we tack on an enhancer on it, that nobody's going to face the penalty for their motivations for the action.
Hate crimes are political, and hate speech is political. Neither one of them have anything to do with actual justice.
Yeah, I would agree, and I would agree with the. Well, David, was it you that made the comment about taking the blindfold off Lady Justice?
Yes, sir.
I think she needs to remain blindfolded, and I think that if I kill somebody, it doesn't matter why I kill them. It does obviously, but I mean, if I kill somebody in a fit of rage, the emotion creates motive, I think, but I don't know. I probably should become a lawyer.
Well, you have to admit, is there a difference between someone coming home and finding someone in bed with their wife and just being in a fit of rage and shooting that person versus finding out about it, planning it out, having someone follow them, figuring out their behavior, and then murdering them a month later? Is there a difference?
Yeah,
The person ends up
absolutely.
dead either way.
Huh?
They're dead either way, but I think
But is there a difference?
that to me there is.
The law says there is, though, right?
The law says there is, but even if you
Oh,
just
yeah.
look at it from
I'm just asking you guys. I don't know. Is there a difference?
net, if you take a very dispassionate look at the net result, 2 people are dead for but if you look at the person and what kind of risk they might pose to society moving forward, the guy who just snaps in the moment and shoots that guy who's in bed with his wife is arguably not as dangerous as the guy who sits on that rage for a month and plans out the perfect murder and tries to get away with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just asking. Some people. That's why some people need to think about what their own opinions are and see what they think about this stuff.
It's a great question, because let's say that the guy that gets shot is my brother. Either way, my brother's dead. I want justice for that killing. So whether or not it happened in a fit of rage or somebody followed him for a month and learned his patterns, I don't know. He's still just as dead. I'm still without my family member. Yeah, it's a great question. This is why we have these chats. This is why I like inviting those of you who make me think about things I hadn't thought about before. I appreciate it. So, all right. Well, we're kind of running out of time, and we haven't even gotten all the way through Amendment 1 yet.
This is going to be like 20 weeks.
Yeah, it took me,
we know what we're doing for the next several weeks.
Yeah, we're going to spend like 3 weeks on the second one.
I'm gonna buy the box set and watch it.
Night. We're not gonna spend more than one night on each one, but for sure we're gonna get through the First Amendment tonight, and maybe that's good. Maybe that each one of these two for sure needs to have its own evening.
This is what
the rest of these might not take as long. The third one probably won't take long. 4 and 5 might. 6 might.
This is what the First Amendment's all about. Is this show being able to have these conversations?
Yes, the First Amendment is what makes us not have to live in fear that we're going to prison, because we talked about this publicly, right? So I haven't been paying anybody attention. Real quick, while we're talking about speech and whatnot, I don't know what's been going on out in the chat. I haven't seen everything that happened. Those of you who are mods, if you are putting people in timeout or booting people, just make sure that we're not doing that because of what they're saying or the sentiments. We do try to keep it PG-13, so it's bad language that'll get you put into timeout. It's using offensive words or names for people or groups of people, calling names, things like that. Yeah, that'll get you there. Your viewpoint is still welcome if you can figure out a tasteful way to say it without using bad words. Then go ahead. That's kind of what we go off of there. So, and I don't know, I didn't catch everything. So if I owe anybody an apology, then I'll find out about it and I'll make that apology. But for now, we're going to push on. So, religion, speech, press. We also have the right to peaceably assemble, and
with a permit.
With sometimes with a permit, yes. But if we're not inciting violence or doing violence, and also, I mean, with the permit, maybe one thing. I don't think the right to assemble personally means that we get to block off traffic and things like that. That's why we have meeting places, public squares, sidewalks, things like that. But I do know that when we had our 2A rally a couple years ago now, or a year and a half ago in Lincoln, that Travis and I went to, one of the things that was stressed more than once during the rally is that we had to leave the actual sidewalk part open. We could not impede anybody's progress to walk down the sidewalk. So we had people on both sides, and we had to leave a gap in the crowd, the width of the sidewalk, so that people could walk through. Because we have the right, and we didn't I don't think we even needed a permit to do that. But we didn't have the right to block off the sidewalk. We couldn't have blocked off the street or anything like that to do such a thing. So part of and if you have to get a permit, then the permit's going to say what you can and can't do, where you can and can't be. So we do have the right to gather, whether it is to protest or to celebrate our rights or celebrate our ethnicity or whatever it is. Again, a lot of countries, people can't get together. A lot of people can't get together and say that they don't like the things that are going on in the government because they don't have the right to assemble, or again, they don't have the free speech that we do. So I don't know that this one it's not talked about near as much as some of the other freedoms that are guaranteed in this amendment. But what are you guys thinking about the right to peaceably assemble? I don't think that Antifa getting together and stomping people or blocking off streets to where ambulances can't get through, I don't think that's protected.
Well, that gets into that whole no right is absolute thing, and I'll be the first one to say that phrase is overused, especially by politicians when talking about the amendment we're going to talk about next week. But it's not absolute in that. So you have the right to peaceably assemble, but when you start blocking traffic or getting in the way of emergency vehicles or curb stomping people or smashing windows, you get into that. You've exceeded your right. You're doing harm in the name of exercising that right.
Yeah, that's not peaceably assembling, though.
Right.
Yeah, it's no longer peaceful.
And it's even if it's just low key passive aggressive. I'm going to block these cars on a 4-lane divided roadway. It's still not peaceful.
It's disruptive.
Yeah, it's disruptive, and it's not blatantly aggressive, but it's passive aggressive. It's certainly it's causing trouble that you don't need to cause in the name of whatever you're demonstrating for.
The old "just because you can doesn't mean you should" rule.
Right.
Yeah.
No, not only that, but there's a lot of things that just because I have the freedom to do them doesn't mean I should do them.
Well, there's people that abuse the rule, and then there's people that use the rule. People that use the rule don't need to be told not to block the sidewalk and not to block emergency exits and stuff like that because we're not interested in doing stuff like that. Then people who abuse the rule are the ones that are the mobs running down the street,
I was going to say once you become a threat to public safety, that you are losing that right to peaceably protest. But then again, if I want to protest peaceably with an AR slung over my back, could I then be considered a threat to public safety, even though I'm exercising a right and I have every ability to do so? But if people feel threatened by that firearm, because I'm thinking of people that want to gather at rallies and want to have their firearms out, which I'm totally in favor of it. You got to kind of watch out what's considered a threat to public safety and what's not, or how you define it.
Well, most places you have to do something. There has to be some sort of act. Yeah, you have the dangerous weapon with you, but it has to be more than just possessing it in most places. Now, that being said, I don't agree with people just strapping a gun on their back as a prop.
When people walk down the sidewalk, they're not doing anything.
I think this is my opinion. I think that they're trying to draw a response that they're going to view as negative, but they're completely asking for that response.
I know.
Like I said, I just don't like them being used as props. I think that kind of belittles us.
That kind of goes back to the myriad videos you can find today on YouTube of people that intentionally go out and try and get the police to stop and question them about why are you carrying this, or are you going to whatever, just so they can record them and
like
do
the
some
First Amendment audits or whatever.
You know what those are? Those are the adult version of "I'm not touching you."
Yes,
that is exactly what they are.
Oh,
I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching it. That's exactly what they are.
I think, and Sarge and I have had this discussion before, is that I think that every movement or every cause needs the whole spectrum. You need the people that are going to go out there with the rifles on their back just as much as you need the people like Clover who are going to do everything possible to avoid any kind of conflict with anybody.
You're correct.
Yeah.
And you can disagree with them and not like them, but everybody needs, every movement, every cause, whatever, needs that whole spectrum in it. That people along that spectrum are going to are going to sway different people on the other side. Like the guy that's out there with the rifle on his back isn't going to sway, the person who you've got to sit down and have a non-confrontational talk with, but they may sway somebody else. And the person that's going to go down and sit down and, I understand your feelings and I empathize with you. That's not gonna reach everybody either.
I will draw a little distinction between the guy who's got an AR slung over his shoulder, who's just walking around talking to people like it's no big deal, right? And yeah, that will make a certain subset of people very uncomfortable. But I still think, in my mind at least, there's a distinction between him and the 25 or 30 or 150 or whatever people who are purposely walking out into the road and blocking traffic or, shaking cars.
Well, yeah, they're
cetera.
infringing on somebody else's right. The guy walking down the sidewalk with the rifle on his back isn't infringing on anybody else's right. The people that are out there blocking traffic are infringing on the traffic.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and
And they're
sometimes
putting themselves in harm's way and making someone else's good judgment cause them not to be run over by stepping out into traffic.
Right. But there are those who would say the guy who, and this is where I have to really disagree, is that there are those who would say that the guy with the AR slung over his shoulder, or if you're me, the AK, that person is just as much infringing on the rights of those around him as the crowd blocking traffic. And
No.
that's
I respectfully disagree.
Yeah, there are people who would say that though, because the presence of a gun means you're infringing on my rights somehow because I'm uncomfortable now.
People have to learn to be uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, this is true. But you can't. I guess the point being, you can't point at that guy and say he's not peaceably gathering.
I got into an argument with a previous supervisor that said that, you can carry a gun, open carry all day long. It's fine. But as soon as one person gets scared, it's going on to the terror of the public. I'm like, no, it's not.
No,
not at all.
When it becomes a problem,
that would be making me own your reaction to me exercising my right. I can't own people's reactions to me. I can only own what I do that causes
like I said,
reaction.
If you're just going about your business, no. If you're doing something to cause their reaction, yes, you have to do something. Can't be just the fact that you're armed. You have to do something. But you can also expect someone to come check out. Why is this guy walking into Walmart with an AR? Why are these two guys walking into Walmart with an AR strapped on the back? Are they getting ready to rob it? You can expect that reaction. That would be a natural reaction.
Right. Now, how about
just to see who you are, see what's going on.
How about the differentiation? Like, you're North Carolina. You guys, I think you guys have open carry of pistols.
Mm-hmm.
How about the guy who walks into a Walmart, the same Walmart, openly carrying a pistol on his hip? To me,
people don't even notice.
I know people don't even notice because it's not as large and people don't look at waistlines very much. Unless
people didn't notice my pistol on my hip when I carried for Every Second Matters until I got a fancy holster.
Right.
They don't notice. And and when they do notice, they don't care because they're used to seeing open carry pistols.
Yeah.
When someone brings an open carry rifle or shotgun in that situation, it would, because it's out of the norm.
Right.
It's kind of suspicious.
Yeah.
And the general public thinks it's suspicious. So they're like, what in the world's about to happen? It's not unusual at all for to see someone with a, because bad guys don't carry their guns in holsters on their side and plain display. They don't do it. Good guys do.
Yeah. So the people that are doing it should expect some kind of interaction with the police.
As long as it's reasonable and respectful.
And I think most of them do. Like Jim, you guys had it down in Texas where there was an open carry. Texas is where they were doing it because what was it? Your concealed carry law, your open carry law for pistols was so asinine. And I didn't swear. That's not a swear word, Sandhills. So
Go ahead.
don't boot
But
me
it's
out.
close.
Nope, we're good.
Stop being so obnoxious.
But because I forget if it was for pistols. Like you could open carry a rifle, but you couldn't open carry a pistol down there in Texas.
That was true at one point.
So you had the guys in open carry Texas were going around with long guns as a political statement. And I fully agree with that because I think you need people that'll do that.
Literally to prove a point as to how silly this law was. Would I do that? No. Could I see the point in it? Yes. In that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we're gonna have, because we always try at least once a year, we try to have all 50 states have a 2A rally right on the Capitol steps if we can. And if we'd love to have all 50 states have representatives there from gun channels that can report back to us. It's cool when we find out how big some of the rallies became when we have those. And again, we have to find what the state laws, what the city laws are for those areas. But that's what the First Amendment guarantees, is that we can get together and we can talk about it. Now, whether or not we can carry a rifle slung over our shoulder, or open carry a pistol, or concealed carry a pistol, because I believe in Lincoln, open carry is okay on the Capitol steps. Concealed carry is not okay on the Capitol steps at a rally.
You want to hear something silly and
differentiate whether or not it's a political event, because then no firearms are allowed, at least in Nebraska. So we have to differentiate what we're actually doing and what the intent of the meeting is. But the State Patrol was on hand. Lincoln City Police was on hand. Nothing bad happened. Everybody was good. I got a little concerned when a couple of the State Patrol went over and investigated a moving van that was parked right near us. I thought, oh gosh, if anybody was ever gonna, I don't think Lincoln, Nebraska is where a bad thing would happen with a truck bomb, but luckily nothing did happen. They checked it out. It was all good. Somebody had just moved. But it kind of made me a little concerned, as I was watching them run the plates and whatnot. But nothing bad happened, and everything was great, and we had a great time there, and I actually got to meet Travis in person for the first time that day. But as a rule, unless people actually overstep their bounds and do something stupid and violent, I don't think that the right to assemble is really abused too much.
I do think they put some silly. I mean, like let's use the rally in Texas. The last rally in Texas I went to, for example. You can, on the Capitol grounds, open carry your pistol if you're licensed to do so. You can open carry an AR pistol in a holster because it's a pistol if you're licensed to do so. And we had guys doing that. But specifically on the Capitol grounds, you couldn't open carry a rifle. That was a rule specific to the Capitol grounds. And you also had this group of people that, and this is where I get into some of the silly restrictions they put on that peaceably assemble thing sometimes. You couldn't open and carry the rifle, even though more than one person had their AR pistol. And the signs, if you had signs, they couldn't have wooden sticks. I mean, yeah, so you had, 250 people or more with open concealed pistols on them, and that was fine. And you couldn't have the wooden stick on your sign, though, because you might do some real damage with that one.
Well, they have to protect the vampire population.
Well, that's true. Those guys are pretty defenseless against wooden sticks. So that's just, not much of a point there, other than sometimes you get the peaceable demonstrations going, and they do put some rather silly restrictions on that right, in the name of safety, but you know how that goes sometimes.
Sure. And then last but not least, before we wrap this up, we also guaranteed the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances, which to me means if there's a law that I don't like and I want to change it, I do have the right to circulate a petition, get enough signatures to tell the government, hey, we're serious and enough of us are serious that you should look at this. Anybody have anything that you want to mention as far as petitioning the government for a redress of grievances?
One time they listened to it and now they don't.
Well, sometimes yes. We actually have, in some states do and some states don't, but in the state of Nebraska, we have the ballot initiative process where if we want to get a law in place or get it voted, we can get enough petitions, signatures on a petition that we can actually get it on the ballot, and then the state can vote whether or not we want this law. Not too many years ago, the state, the unicameral, abolished the death penalty in Nebraska because apparently they forgot who they represent. And so somebody started the ballot initiative, petition to have that put on the ballot. The state voted, and we reinstated the death penalty in Nebraska. One of our, what I would call idiot state senators, I'm not going to name him, but he's got some really terrible bills out there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Has resubmitted a bill that would reabolish the death penalty because I don't think he quite understands who he works for. And so the state's already voted that we want this in place in our state. I think that he should leave well enough alone, but I guess we'll see what the unicameral does with it. And I guess if we have to, we'll do it again. We'll circulate another petition. But that's the state of Nebraska. The federal government also allows petitions for certain things. So again, it's in my opinion, it's a great way for us to get the attention of our Congress and say, hey, there's enough of us out here who want this to be addressed. And, you know, when you sign the petition, your signature only counts if you are a registered voter. You've signed it in the, you know, the right county and all that kind of stuff. So it's all, every signature is gone through, and they throw out the ones that don't count and make sure that they've got enough to qualify. But we do have that right, and it doesn't get talked about a lot, and I don't think that we'll probably have a whole lot of debate on it here tonight. But does anybody have anything they want to say about that? Do we like it? Do we not like it? Are we glad it's here?
I'm glad it's there. I mean, it kind of couples in with the freedom of speech and the peaceably assemble, right? It's all about making your voice heard. Now, whether or not that actually affects change, or whether or not, you know, you get in a ballot initiative going in some of these states, and you know darn well that some of the ballot initiatives you see in some of these states, Washington, I'm talking to you, are simply awful. And they're not even, you know, there's that balance, there's that tension between the will of the people and the rule of law, aka the Constitution that these states and federal government are based on, the whole republic thing. But you know, it has to be in there because your voice has to be able to be heard. You know, and that means if you need to ring the phone or knock on the door of the office of your representative, you have the right to do that. So it's part and parcel of freedom of speech and freedom of assembly, basically.
It is, and I think that's why it is addressed in this amendment. You know, if you look at these, they all kind of link together. It's not like any one of these is completely foreign to the rest of the clauses in this amendment. So yeah. Well, we're going to wrap this up because it's taken a whole chat just to go through the First Amendment, which I kind of suspected would be the case. And I'm okay with this because I really didn't want to get through this in an hour and then just have a little bit of time to talk about Amendment 2. This being 2A Tuesday and all, It is the reason why we started the live chat. Most everything that we discuss does have some bearing, not always, not every week, but it usually has some bearing on something Second Amendment related. So we will get to this. It's going to be 2 weeks from now. Next week's the last Tuesday of the month, so we'll be doing our no panel live Q&A chat. Excuse me, just Sandhills, Sweetheart, and myself next week. So hopefully we will see our panel all back here in 2 weeks, ready to rock and roll and talk about Amendment 2 and what the Second Amendment means to each one of us. Now, before we move on from that, we do have a challenge out there. I mentioned this earlier. Adam Jimenez on his channel has put out what he said might be the only video he ever makes, but challenging each one of us to make our own video and post it along with in the title hashtag 2A challenge, and just explain what the Second Amendment means to each one of us. And so I'm going to just pass on a little homework. Hopefully everybody in the panel, everybody in the chat decides to go ahead and make that video. Maybe it's your first video and you've never turned your camera on to shoot one before, but it's not that hard, and sometimes it's even a little addictive. Once you make a couple, then you want to make a couple more. From what I understand, tattoos are that way, but for me, it's videos. So hopefully we all either have or will make that video. Adam, I haven't made mine yet because I've had some other stuff going on the last couple days, and I haven't taken time to sit down and do any videos lately. So I've got a couple that I want to make. That's going to be one of them, and I will make sure and put the hashtag in there. So if you want to know what it's all about, go to Adam's channel first and watch his challenge video so you know exactly what he's challenging us to do. And then we'll talk about it just amongst ourselves in 2 weeks on what does that end up being then? It's going to be
It's like the first weekend in May almost, or
May 7th.
Early? Yeah.
May
Something like
7th,
that.
because next week is the 30th, the last day of April. It's also the last Tuesday. So yeah, that'll be no panel, just Sandhills, Sweetheart, and myself. So May 7th it'll be. So that'll be the Second Amendment chat. And if we get through it in less than one chat, then we'll move on to Amendment 3. Just don't look for that to happen. So we will we'll try not to shortchange any of the first 10 amendments as we go through the Bill of Rights. And talk about whatever we need to talk about among them or within them. And then if some of them, they might not take as long as others, we might get through several in one night. We'll see what happens. I just don't want to shut anybody down. Again, with the chat, as we're talking, your viewpoints are welcome. And we, even if they don't agree with everybody else's viewpoint in the panel or in the chat, that's okay. As long as what you're saying is not disrespectful to people and doesn't have bad language. And if you're doing code words or, I mean, come on, we're all grown-ups here. If you have to ask if a word is okay, then probably it's not okay. Just pick a different one. It's just kind of common sense. So let's use that as much as we can. I know, common sense, not all that common anymore, but we'll try and find some. So we'll go back through here and let everybody say goodnight. Who did we have with us in the chat? I love my wife, best wife ever. She keeps this list going for me so I don't miss anybody. So some of these names, some of you I know, some of you I'm meeting for the first time. We had tonight in the YouTube chat, we had Bass Boy, SS Pawn, Gizzard Gary, Obnoxious One, Calaveras, 7 Kinky Wonders, Stephen Kaiser's Outdoor Adventures, Rich Parth was here, Trigger Plus P, Kinky Sphincter, Sam of Anarchy, 7 Wonders, Blue Steel, Rich White, Joe Smith, Jim Burgess, Kingpin, Alpha, Q2, not saying it fast, Tennessee Gun Guy, Mutiny for the Cat, George Grayson Cat. We had a lot of cat people in here tonight. Edward was in here too. Hill Climb Ohio JB, Rob C was in the house. Old 60 Armory, Gun Loving Grandpa Stan, Agorizer, Keith Gregory, Gunpowder Beauty and Tardot, Gunpowder Didn't realize that Tardok climbed out of the dungeon to do a little chatting before she beat him back in there and chained him back up. So he was out here for a little bit. Patrick Jimenez, as we were just talking about. Blitzkrieg, Armament and Axes, Guitar Man Pete. What's up, Pete? Snob's Wife. I didn't see Snob. Did I? Snob's Wife is here. Zorro117, Tim Foley, Vanessa Kitty, Guy That Comments, C4 Defense, Travis T. Let's see, Poor Conservative, Patriot in the Dark was here. Tread, Richard, is it Garnash, and Bishop Ammunition and Firearms. So thank you, all of you, for don't point you out like that. Sorry, too bad. Thank you, all of you, for joining us on the YouTube side. Over on the Gun Channel side, only one comment, that was mine. But Diane Bishop was in the house, Jim Burgess, Rich White, and I saw, who else did I see? Dusty and Husker Annie and some other people in there too earlier.
Dead Horse was there.
Was that?
Dead Horse was there too.
And Dead Horse was there. That's who it was. I don't remember if I saw Dusty. I think I thought of Dead Horse. Something with it.
I was over talking to Dead Horse for a little bit.
In my chat? Do I just need to refresh?
Yeah, I think so.
Sometimes it doesn't refresh right. You got to pop it out or something.
Oh, it is popped out.
Plus, when Dead Horse is in the chat, he puts a lot of comments in there too.
Well, yeah, but I didn't see any of them come through. And I even had, oh my gosh, I even had the little window popped out and nothing. Yeah, there was a lot of chatting. Nothing happened. Although I don't see my comment either. I'm not sure what happened, but cool. I missed those comments. I'll go back and reread them. All right, so we'll let everybody say goodnight that's still here with us. We lost Squib due to a difference of opinion, and I know what happened. He didn't leave because simply because he didn't like what was being said, or he just took his ball and went home. What happened was Squib wanted to make sure that he didn't get so fired up that he broke the rules and got worse than a PG-13 rating. And so I think just to protect the sensitivity of the chat, I think he just dropped out. And then Calaveras had to go because he had some stuff going on, and I think he just went to bed. So thanks, Squib and Calaveras, for joining us. We also had Travis P11 with us tonight.
Yep. Hey, so anyway, guys, I appreciate the invite. Thank you very much. This is a good discussion. This is kind of I like to hear other people's opinions and get some new ideas about kind of what my take is on the amendments. And I'm looking forward to doing more of them in a couple weeks when we resume again. And guys, like or subscribe. Everybody here on the panel, they got great channels with lots of good content. Do check them out. Otherwise, we got Caliber Corner coming up Thursday, 5 to 7 Central Time over on gunchannels.com. So thanks a lot, man.
Yep, check that out in a couple nights. All right. And joining us late, but better late than not at all, we had Sarge from C4 Defense.
Yes. Thanks for the invite. I'm glad I was able to pop in for just a little bit.
Sure. I'm glad that you were able to, again, you were able to make me think about things I hadn't thought about. And that's one of the things. I don't require it from all of my panel, but I do appreciate it.
Well, it's just throwing things out there. See what people think.
It's perfect, because how do I know what I believe if I don't ever have it challenged or have my my horizons expanded, right? So thanks for that. Rich, thanks for being here, and thanks for your contributions to the chat.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, always. All right, and we had Obnoxious One. Gosh, I don't think that. Did you even say anything? Were you even here?
No, I was barely even here. Thanks for the invite. Sorry I drove Squib off, and Squib, I still love you. So I can have a different opinion. I can have a major difference of opinion and still like you as a person. So
and that's why
let's just chalk that up to we have a major difference of opinion and call it good. And I'll see you at NRA, and we'll hug it out. Just like roll call and Too Hottie. They're gonna hug it.
They're gonna hug it out.
Yeah.
Biden challenge.
Biden
challenge.
Oh, I will definitely Biden challenge Squib. So
the hug it out challenge. Here, pet his hair and kiss him on the forehead and tell him it's gonna be okay.
Yep, I am definitely gonna Biden challenge Squib.
He'll nuzzle the neck in a heartbeat.
What flavor are you gonna use in your head that day, just in case he sniffs your head?
Make sure you smell his hair too, and let us know what it smells like.
I'm just hoping he's wearing those socks and sandals and shorts.
I hope he gets some with like some color on the top of them instead of straight
Ballast.
white tube socks.
All right.
Check out my channel and check out Sarge and the Gun Snob and my channel, which is Trigger Plus P. We're gonna start hitting that hard when we get back, when Snob and I get back from Nara, where Sarge is not going to be, and hopefully get our first guest and get everything lined up and start putting out some content over there.
Cool. All right. And David, thanks for staying up. I know it's late where most of you are over on the East Coast, but thanks for hanging with us.
Oh, my pleasure. I always love a good conversation, so thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and thanks for being here. Jim, thanks for joining in, and you had some really good stuff to say, some great questions that made me think too.
Well, thank you. And you guys who are going to NRA, I want y'all to go and find Tim from Military Arms Channel and follow him around and see what trouble he's stirring up.
Yeah, somebody should just go live and just follow Tim and just broadcast on their own channel.
I'll be busy following road call.
Roadside assistance call.
I'll be busy following road call, and I almost did it. I did it again.
Roadside assistance.
Yeah, he
Not
may
to
be
be
crazy.
confused
What
with
the
rodeo.
HE double hockey sticks? Anyway, I'll be following roll call because he didn't. As far as I know, he still hasn't gotten his media credentials, so he was going to go cause a scene. So
Make sure you smell his hair first and tell us what it's
Oh,
like.
I did that in Tulsa. It smelled like disappointment.
CLP.
Is that the new Duke Cannon soap?
yes. Ballastol and disappointment. That's what roll call smells like.
He's got chickens. He smells like chickens too, but not the same way Gary smells like chickens.
I was just to say, speaking of smelling like chickens, Gary, thanks for being here.
Well, I don't know all about how I smell. I mean, I'd like to know how y'all know personally. Well, obnoxious was close enough to know, but that's
A few precious moments we shared in Tulsa. Oh man,
what happens in Tulsa stays in Tulsa.
Well, sometimes,
kind of, sort of, but anyway.
Unless you go live.
Thanks for having me. Check out my website, gizzardgary.com. Check out Foul Territory on Friday nights, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. Early Bird Chat Sunday mornings, 10 Eastern, 9 Central. And give them the bird. Thanks for the invite.
Give him the bird. And on behalf of Sandhills Sweetheart and Edward here and myself, thank you all for joining the panel, joining the chat, and watching us. If you haven't gone over and checked us out on Facebook and Twitter, do that. Facebook is just Facebook/Sandhills Shooter, all one word. Twitter is at Sandhills Shooter, but there's no E in shooter because I ran out of characters. So it's just at Sandhills SHOOTR. And I'm starting to try and put out a few tweets every now and then, just in the hope that something gets retweeted and maybe AOC or somebody calls me out. I'll be famous. Probably not going to happen though. But thanks everybody for being here. You guys have a great rest of your Tuesday night. God bless you all, and don't forget, get off my lawn.
Adios, Felicia. Adios, Felicia.
Hashtag